Welcome to The Difference Engine, the show for tech founders, investors, and innovators.
Hey, Jonathan, what have we got?
Small but mighty. We'll ask how AI can downsize your team while dialing up your productivity.
And we'll continue to be Europe's loudest cheerleaders by speculating how the dumping of Chinese electronics could give the continent a competitive edge.
But first, let's talk about Trump's tariff turmoil. Could the chaos be concealing a golden opportunity? Unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of weeks, you might have noticed that the US is going through what is in fact the third of its regular every 100 years protectionist tariff imposing cycles. The last two didn't go too well for the US or the world. Let's hope this one, entirely the product of the petulant orange man baby, fares better. When global free trade is disrupted, and market uncertainty arises, it inevitably impacts the entire ecosystem of established supply chains, production models, regulatory norms, and so on. Now, compared to the last two tariff-tastic events, the world is now globalized, whether the Donald realizes it or not, and economies are intimately connected and managed by technology. So if this disruption lasts, and who knows, the Fanta Fura appears to change his mind at the drop of a hat. So technology is going to have to change or just cope, but make the most of a new reality. So, as the old proverb goes, necessity is the mother of invention. So disruptions often create fertile ground for new technology categories to emerge, especially those that address efficiency, localization, resilience, and digital trust. So we thought we'd put our heads together and identify a magnificent 7 new or evolving areas of technology categories. Tariff Tech, you heard it here first, opportunities that we think could be right for the design in these interesting times. So who might have the trump cards in all of this?
All right, category designers, now is your time. So I think number one of our Magnificent 7 is simply supply chain intelligence and resilience platforms. There's a massive opportunity here because tech solutions that provide real-time visibility and predictive analytics and AI-driven task management are going to be hot properties. Why? Companies want more control and more foresight as they're forced to move away from just-in-time global logistics and rebuild nimbler, let's say federalized or decentralized distribution chains. Example of this, imagine that you are the ship that is 3 days out from LA port just before the tariffs kick in.
Yeah.
And you're going to get hit with, let's say, 104% tariff. I think that's going to force you to put the pedal to the metal and get in there quick.
Or if you're Land Rover, just park them, it seems.
As we've seen. So lots of people ceasing what they're doing while everybody figures it out. When it stabilizes, what this leaves us with is a need for real-time information to figure out whether when you land the product, wherever it's sold, it's going to be at a profit or not.
Okay, so as we're talking category, here's some suggestions. How about blockchain chain for traceability in that case? Digital twins for logistics? AI-based disruption forecasting? Absolutely.
And those old technologies, which have been around for a while, event-driven architectures and publish subscribe buses, which, some would say may not be the most innovative in the world. Suddenly they're looking really attractive because they tell you where exactly your goods are in transit, and they can calculate on the fly whether or not you're going to be in profit when they land.
Okay, well, you've got to make these things in the first place, of course.
That brings us to our second category.
Indeed it does. And of course, the Donald can't tell the difference between services and manufacturing. But let's have a look at manufacturing. So given the disruption that tariffs are causing, the opportunity here is technology that enables local, flexible, and on-demand production. So things like microfactories, 3D printing, CNC automation.
Dark kitchens.
Dark kitchens, indeed. That would be a really good one. We'll get fed tonight. To replace or complement that overseas manufacturing that has been an integral part of this globalization period we've been going through. So this is really important right now because companies need to reduce dependency on distant or high tariff suppliers and react faster to changes in market trends.
So all those nice, beautifully efficient supply chains blown up have to be rethought through.
In terms of category, How about things like additive manufacturing networks, smart microfactory management, and AI-driven design to prototype tools to really speed up that part of the manufacturing
some
process?
Of this stuff is old school, right? So like when you say additive manufacturing, I think 3D printing. But when you say AI-driven design to prototype tools, I think there's something in that, because there'll be a whole lot more prototyping before anything's made and attracts a tariff.
Yeah, and of course, as was said before, that's one of the great opportunities for Europe are those vertical market applications of AI, given that the big horizontal AI area is now mapped out on the West Coast.
Yeah, somebody's taken that till. Okay, which leads us to our third of our magnificent seven category opportunities, nearshoring as a service. So what we're looking at here is integrated platforms that businesses can use to evaluate, set up, and whether it's worth their while or not, nearshoring operations. Of course, there's a whole lot of calculations, and dare I say it, there's work for accountants to do, or process folks to do, to figure this out. But if you're looking to relocate closer to key markets because you're worried about tariffs, etc., this is a perfect opportunity to figure out how to match your manufacturing and your service provision to your buyers.
And that's where AI can definitely come in. Again, we've got AI matching there.
Yeah, and of course there's a ton of, and we'll come on to this in our next category, there's a ton of, am I paying the right tariffs?
Yeah, there's a new as a service, I think, compliance as a service. To your point, are you paying the right taxes in the right way? And just some basic plug and play infrastructure tools, I think, are going to be needed in this area.
And we've worked previously for a global tax platform, and one of our clients at Categorical, and I've reached out to their CEO, and maybe they're not seeing it just yet, but essentially to non-accountants like you, non-tax people like you and I, this is, although it's not technically a tax, this is another type of revenue collection that people will have to do in the States on behalf of the US government, and possibly for other legislations as well. So there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done there.
It's a whole new level of complexity, which does, in fact, bring us on nicely to the number 4 in the Magnificent Seven, that of digital trade compliance and risk management tools. So what we're talking about here is software that helps businesses adapt to changing trade policies, tariffs, sanctions, and different customs regulations, but in real time.
Because if there's one thing we know about our gold friend,
yes,
it is that he changed his mind a fair bit.
Every day, it seems.
Depending on how things go with the third term, etc., we're looking at least 4 years of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So the dynamics here calls out for a new category.
Yeah, so people have absolutely got to understand what that legal and financial exposure is in real time.
Real time, yep.
So the opportunity we see here is for smart contract platforms. We can think of a firm based not too far from here that's actually in that area already. I think the AI opportunity here is AI legal assistance for trade compliance. And of course, as you just mentioned, global tax management platforms.
Absolutely.
This is the moment for them.
There you go, LockTax. All right, so number 5 in our 7 is tokenized cross-border finance infrastructure. And what we really mean here, of course, is blockchain.
Yep.
There has been a lot of discussion about whether blockchain is a solution looking for a problem or is actually useful. And all of those Web3 companies out there, we're saying now is your time.
This might be the problem.
This could be it, right? So it's amazing how things can play to your advantage. So anything that allows, using the blockchain, quick movement of secure cross-border payments and part payments, et cetera, trade financing to make sure that you get paid on time, invoicing, and all of the fintech innovation that we've seen is about to get revolutionized.
Again, it's pretty simple. Why now? Because this whole geopolitical instability means that companies have to look for better ways of doing business than through traditional banking systems.
And every government's got its own trade credit sort of setup, right?
Yep.
Those guys are your customers, people. Knock on those doors.
Got to get off the banking rails. So if we think about where are the category opportunities in this, I'm thinking stable coin-based B2B payments, decentralized credit systems, and possibly even invoice tokenization.
And I'm not sure if the gurus out of the White House have figured this out yet, but all of this talks about not doing stuff in dollars.
Yes.
But hey, let's not worry about it. This is not our problem to solve.
No, it isn't.
We're on the category tip. Let's move on to number 6.
So I think autonomous trade negotiation AI agents.
Oh, that sounds fancy.
The point here is that AI-driven agents could stimulate or support international business negotiations. Again, these things are going to be very active all the time.
So no humans involved, AI to AI.
Yeah.
I want this, you got that, I bid, I offer.
Yeah, complex negotiations.
Yeah.
And within that, how do you come up with pricing scenarios? And, these things like contract arbitration, which is going to have to go on. And in order to do that and make your argument stick, you're going to have to use real-time economic and regulatory data to feed into those systems. So we're being pushed into an area where we have a pervasive network across the world. We've had experience of globalization, which means that going against globalization is going to massively complicate and speed up what we have to do to get trade done.
And not for the category designers who build these products, but for the rest of us, we have to realize AI is often described as a black box. These negotiations will happen lightning fast, will involve no humans, and may be incomprehensible to humans. So winding back from a situation, from a contract, could be fiendishly difficult / impossible. So lots of possibilities there.
So number 7 of the Magnificent 7, resilient digital marketplaces.
Well, what I don't like from a category point of view is we've got digital marketplaces and we're modifying it. So the modifier here may not end up being resilient.
Yeah, I mean, the problem we're having to deal with here is fractured global ecosystems. And we need to have new digital marketplaces that don't follow the rules of globalization. So what I mean by that is things which are built for regional sourcing, variable logistical conditions, and adaptive compliance.
Because what you don't mean is Shein and Temu dumping a load of stuff under weird VAT regulations.
No, you don't. That would be somehow a strange manifestation of what tariffing is supposed to achieve.
But the world's greatest digital marketplace, the everything store, Amazon, is already showing that it's really rethinking what it's doing. It's paused a whole lot of what its operations, its shares have tanked quite badly. And this new category of digital marketplace is where it's going to be. And whether it comes from them or somebody else, it's definitely going to shake up the digital marketplace.
So we need marketplaces that can adapt to a volatile future. And to do that, we think the category opportunities could be around B2B platforms with embedded trade services, localized fulfillment hubs, or indeed dynamic pricing for volatile markets.
I mean, you are talking about a massive set of category opportunities here. So weirdly, out of something so perhaps gloomy, let's say murky, let's say browny orangey, comes some white light and maybe some white light of innovation, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I have both learned from painful experience that in running businesses, you have to stay positive and look upon change. Even stuff that makes no sense whatsoever, but is reality, as an opportunity. So, we know that major disruptions do cause fertile ground for new technology categories to emerge. And so why shouldn't a new wave of innovation and category creation be driven by the Tango tyrant? Think there are too many lookalike tech companies chasing the same markets? We do. We think it's because so few tech startups are able to build and lead their own categories. What matters most is to be different. Stop following and start building your own unassailable leadership position today. Working with the category design gurus at Categorical brings decades of differentiation expertise to your team. Book a consultation from our website today and we will send you our one-pager detailing how to start designing your own highly differentiated category. So we've been thinking a little bit, have we not, Paul, about recent events, events of the last couple of weeks, what is happening in the world, and the possibility that there could be a large-scale dumping of Chinese originated electronic products into the European market. Now, if that was to happen, what impact do we think that would have on Europe?
Just imagine this. Imagine that iPhones go, due to crazy tariffs,
Yeah.
$1,000 in the US and over £1,000 here for the top end ones, 1,100 for the Pro Max.
And the rest.
To over $2,000.
Yep.
Because somebody has slapped 104% or whatever the tariffs
Who could that be?
making them more of a luxury item in the US even than they are. Tanking sales in the process. Now, that price drop would only eat into Apple's margins, which are quite big.
Yeah.
And they might say to themselves, well, I want to keep my sales up, but I'm not willing to match the price of the Chinese-made brands like Huawei or Xiaomi and those other phones, the Android phones that people use in preference to Apple. They're pretty highly spec'd phones, but they're not Apple. So Apple decides, sod this, I'm going to focus elsewhere in the world.
Yep.
And in the world's largest single market, Europe. 500 million punters, pretty wealthy compared to the rest of the world. Let's focus on Europe and we'll keep Wall Street happy. Could potentially be the way that they think.
And we're talking about a large European population, a little bit resentful as in the past having to pay so much more for Apple products.
Well, hell yeah. So we're used to paying over the odds for iPhones. So it used to be, and this was so cynical in my view, even when the pound was at $1.30, it was a pound-dollar equivalent.
Oh, yeah.
So we're paying the same numbers as the States. And somehow the psychological trick there is, oh, well, it's the same number. But in value terms, in earning terms, it was 20% or so more.
Yeah, Gap did that as well. That didn't seem to work out terribly well for them.
Yeah, they're no longer here, are they? So now, if this all goes on and Europe becomes the focus because they simply outprice themselves from their home market, let's remind ourselves, the US market, then they are now competing not only with the Chinese guys, but they have an abundance of product, which is, in your words, they might send to Europe.
Yeah.
And obviously, scarcity drives value. If there's a glut of products and some competition for customers, and let's say, imagine this, a little bit of anti-US sentiment, that's not going to go too well for them in our view.
It could make it very, very hard for Apple. But it's not really just about Apple. It's about every potential electronic product, PCs, TVs, game consoles.
So if any of these manufacturers or manufacturing out in the Far East decide to take the price war on, high-end brands, Apple being the one in electronics, get involved in a severe price war, the like of which we haven't seen so far. And if it spirals into like commodity pricing and, Apple's, for whatever reason, Apple's products become less fashion forward, at least for a few brief months or so, maybe an iPhone recycle or two, we get super well-priced phones.
And the Donald could be quite popular for a short time.
And we like that. I think that's something that I think will go down very well. Now, what it will do for the brand long-term, different story.
There are some losers even in this scenario, aren't there?
Oh, for sure. So like all the stuff that we get to accompany our Apple, our cords or chargers, all of the anchor products that we love, the cases, all of that stuff, which drives a whole economy of shops on our high streets, they're in a different situation.
Yeah.
They don't have low price product to sell. Apple drops its price potentially because it needs to get rid of stock. These guys are putting their prices up because they're tariffed to hell.
Yeah, and let's not forget that complex manufacturing, that doesn't shift overnight, and every piece of tech kit, other than the most basic, is assembled from products of more than one country.
Let's carry on with this thought experiment. So now I want the EU to tariff my Chinese-made phone cases as low as possible.
Yeah.
So now from a consumer point of view, I have a lower priced iPhone comparatively. I have nice gadgets that I can attach to it. And eventually, if I'm the manufacturer, let's say, I don't know, Anker or whoever, maybe the guys that put the battery in your US-built Tesla, for which you normally need to get a new mortgage, maybe they're good value.
Let's face it, in the end, if we had a whole lot of electronics coming in and component parts at below market prices coming in, this could have significant effect on European inflation and technology investment, both positive and negative, depending on the lens you use. So let's try and break this down.
Deflation. The opposite of inflation.
Yeah, so we're talking about short-term deflationary pressure here. Cheaper electronics, right? So smartphones, computers, appliances, etc. Lower consumer price inflation, quite nice from a macroeconomic point of view. It could soften headline inflation, giving central banks like the European Central Bank, ECB, more room to pause or cut interest rates. Hurrah! I also think there could be supply chain cost reductions in this. European manufacturers or tech firms relying on Chinese components may see input costs fall.
Yeah, because the Chinese manufacturers say, I can't get to the US.
Yep.
My nice friends in Europe can buy all my stuff.
Yep.
Let's go there.
And we go, brilliant, easing producer price inflation, Hurrah!
That's two hurrahs.
It is, but don't count your chickens, right?
Okay.
There is the risk of sectoral disruption.
Ooh, that sounds painful. What's a sectoral disruption?
Well, if dumping causes European electronics firms to lose market share or even go under, it could trigger job losses and supply side issues, which might ironically fuel inflation in the medium term.
Boo! That's two hurrahs and one boo. I don't
Two
like
hurrahs
that.
and boo. Okay.
All right, so that's the inflation economic stuff done for the wonks. Can we get to the technology stuff?
What, the investment stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. So first thing, impact is going to be negative pressure on domestic tech firms. So European tech firms may get margin compression and reduce competitiveness. And what does that inevitably lead to in any economic cycle? Lower R&D spending, hiring freezes or layoffs, and hesitancy from investors due to weakened earnings prospects.
Right.
So that is not a good way to go.
No, and that is really the shame of this for us. That's the thing we need to be careful about.
So what we're seeing is a short-term tactical effect having a long-term strategic impact.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's not good. There's also the potential for overall market disruption here. So dumping can distort fair competition. Of course it can. It discourages innovation.
As you just said.
And long-term investment from European firms who can't compete on price. In fact, they can't compete on price even when the tech is not being dumped. Yeah. So imagine if that was pushed further down. Big problems.
I think there are second order issues with that as well. So if I'm in a nice, secure, let's say French,
yes.
I'm employed in France for a tech company with all my beautiful workers' rights.
Yeah.
I become even less attractive as a hire than, let's say, somebody from a country with more hire and fire type rights.
Yeah, a company that might have 0 hours contracts. For
Possibly.
What are you talking about? That could be.
I don't know.
So there's another thing, and this is like a sort of drug effect. If Chinese products dominate due to low prices, Europe could become more dependent on China for critical technology.
I think that's inevitable.
So what does that do? Raises geopolitical and supply chain resilience concerns. Just look at what's happening in the current EV marketplace with the assault from BYD.
Look at the confusion around steel manufacturing in the UK, right?
Yeah, and I think, at a European level, although the UK is not part of the EU anymore, the EU itself may respond with anti-dumping tariffs, right? Increased subsidies or strategic tech investment. Then that could be by existing legislative mechanisms such as the EU Chips Act or Digital Europe Programme. And that would be a classic statist response to protect and promote local innovation.
And you're just talking about manufactured goods there. That's before you muddy the water with the digital sales tax and get into the realm of services.
I have to say that the words protect and promote when used by a pan-national government entity, of which I have experience of from the inside, fills me with dread.
Right.
But this could spur targeted investment in strategic autonomy areas like semiconductors, AI and green tech, where we could establish category leads.
God, I hope that's true. So we don't have so much of these token white elephant silicon roundabouts, platform F, etc., but we have some joined up thinking and, dare I say it, an industrial policy.
That would be great. The only problem here is that we are trying to dominate categories in a more restricted world.
Let's do worst case, best case.
Let's do a takeaway of some sort on
let's
this.
do that.
Okay. So I think that the best case, and this is really only short term, is that consumers enjoy cheaper gadgets, inflation dips, and the European Central Bank gets, some breathing room. Things return to a sort of normal as the Iron Bruiser's influence wanes.
Okay, so take us to the other end.
Okay. So the much worse case, and who knows how worse it could get, is that lunacy prevails, and European tech stagnates due to unfair competition, strategic dependence grows, Pyrrhic retaliatory trade measures increase, and the world becomes an even more unstable place.
Oh, that is quite grim. But our take, I think, has to be somewhere in the middle,
yes,
right?
Of course.
We know that the recent changes in tariffs were railed back a little bit by the good old bond markets. Whoever thought they'd be sexy?
Yeah.
But for now and for the foreseeable future, the genie is out of the bottle on free trade. Yeah. And so it's time to start thinking. There's a shift afoot from tariff-free to tariff-first markets. And we all need to adjust.
Yeah, there's going to be wins and losses from all this protectionism. No more free defense of Europe.
So, and speaking to people in the States, even Europeans who work in the States, they're quite happy about no more free defense.
And no more odd US dollar pricing for Europe.
Oh, same price on the Apple Store? Maybe not anymore.
Yeah. Potentially tougher to operate in the US. Less attractive for US tech firms to invest and hire here.
Yeah, so every business and innovator in Europe has to reevaluate their US expansion plans right now. And they need to start looking again and afresh at the largest single market in the world, which, to remind you, is the European Union. Yeah. And perhaps, and you've no idea how much this hurts me, perhaps we need to get even closer ties to the Far East because they are suffering most and they could help us out a lot.
From our point of view as category designers, traditionally building your category in Europe has been perceived to many as a disadvantage.
Yeah.
A mere stepping stone.
Let's just do it here for now and then let's go for the big prize.
Global success. That's what we want. And global success, for most time, meant actually dominating in the US.
And floating on their deeply liquid, much vaunted
stock markets.
Yeah. Which, it's been a bit of a roller coaster recently.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the world's free trade is truly coming to an end, we need to plan to stand on our own strengths and fast. And that means thinking very carefully about where the category opportunities are.
Let's get into smaller marketing teams or smaller teams in general and AI.
Yeah, but not in the way you might think.
No, because everybody says today's received wisdom, and it's amazing how fast these things happen, is that AI won't kill your job, but it might give your job to someone else who can use AI a little better because they've got better skills.
But what does that mean? Will there be smaller teams overall? Whatever the reason, this idea to hire fewer new folks and upskill those you have is pretty hot today. It's what everybody's talking about. So is it time to get working with fewer folks in everything from coding to hiring to marketing to finance? And do the team need to learn more AI tools? And what tools?
Well, it seems a little bit harsh, doesn't it? We all come back from COVID. It's back to the office and we're getting used to humans and being humans again. Yeah. And what happens? An email manifesto by Toby Lutke. He's the Shopify CEO, as you probably know.
Yeah, Toby, please get in touch if we've just murdered your surname.
Magnificent Canadian success. He mandated in his email manifesto experimenting with AI a lot. Yeah. And that has spawned a ton of comments from management, press, through to marketing teams. And so much so, he felt compelled to publish it.
Because it was already out there. Well, so he legitimized it by publishing it.
We think it's a sign of a great CEO if they don't fear their internal comms being leaked. The evil thought is, did he plan this? And his note on X says, I heard this internal memo of mine is being leaked right now, so here it is.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, we all know any great communications plan these days, anything that comes out from the CEO, you have to plan that it's going to leak.
It's going to leak.
It's actually in the planning, not in the intent,
right,
I think.
Okay, fair point. Signalgate will tell you that.
Right.
Two of the greatest tech laws, as we're talking about tech, are Moore's Law and Metcalfe's Law. And just as a reminder, Professor Simnett, can you please state Moore's Law and Metcalfe's Law?
Right. From memory, I think the Moore's Law states that the processing capacity of chips will double every 18 months to 2 years. That's negotiable, yeah?
Good.
And I think Gordon Moore has been proved right, even to this day on this.
I think AI slightly accelerated that, but it held for a good 30, 40 years?
Well, that's a good way to think about things.
What about Metcalfe's law?
It is about the fact that the value of networks increase exponentially with the amount of users that are attached to the network.
Now, the interesting thing about Metcalfe's law, and this applies to Shopify, Spotify, and many other of our current big tech companies, is that it doesn't just apply in a technical sense to the number of nodes on the network. It applies to big platforms. When you get sufficient usage, you freeze out all the competition. I give you Meta, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so it's Metcalfe's law that has essentially given most of big tech its ludicrous valuations.
Yeah.
Because this is the network effect that we all talk about.
Now, it probably helps to remember that those two laws are both, to a certain extent, proven and old.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward to today. And let's see if this applies to team members being exponential to value.
So we know there's been quite a few examples of companies that have achieved massive valuations, IPOs, huge sales, with really very few people.
This is the point, right? So in Toby's email where he says, first thing is try AI before you hire anybody. He's making the point that you don't need to hire lots of people to get lots of value. One example is the UK's Moneybox, funded by VC Brieger, who's Ben we had on the show.
Ben Morrell.
Go back and listen to that. It's a corker of a show.
Yeah.
So this is a fintech which is believed to scale to profitability and 75,000 customers. It ain't Barclays, but it ain't bad.
$500 million valuation.
$500 million to $750 million valuation with fewer than 500 employees. But that ain't even impressive in the scale of things.
No, it's not unusual at all, is it? I think, one of the things in this is if you've got product that's user generated, that is a certain thing that will drive towards this ratio between valuation and the amount of people you employ. So, when YouTube was acquired by Google for a mere, was it 1.65 billion?
Does seem cheap now, doesn't it? Does seem cheap.
That was 2006. It was a different world. Right. I'm sure it only employed less than 70 people at the time.
Wow.
And a little bit later, when Instagram sold to Meta for a paltry $1 billion back in 2012, I think it only had 13 employees.
Right. So there is precedent to say you can achieve a lot of valuation with very few people. And this is in the pre-AI world. Let's come right up to date. Let's come to 2025. And B2B, unlike B2C, is going full on Doge.
We've got a lot of time for some of the commentators of B2B. I mean, we particularly like Jason Lemkin of SaaStr.
Yeah, he's talking about small but mighty.
Yep.
But let's talk about mighty getting smaller. So before we get there, HP laid off 4,500 of its highly paid and, to be fair to them, highly intelligent team this year. And so Jason is pointing to a new type of business.
Yeah.
I think he's talking about AI though, right?
Yeah.
He's talking about AI companies growing to huge valuations. Bear in mind, a lot of the valuation is in the software and the data center, and actually even just the ability to have a deal with NVIDIA to get access to its chips.
Well, I mean, Jason's been typically combative here. He's basically laying down the challenge, which is, how small and mighty can you get using AI?
Right.
And it sort of points to a different way of looking at company building. Because, particularly in services businesses, we've been very used, for instance, to a ratio of turnover per employee.
Yeah.
I think over time,
yeah.
20 years ago, you'd be thinking about what's the ratio of income per employee you'd want. And you sort of started at about 3.5. That just goes completely out the window.
AI, yeah, because the valuation could be billions with dozens of employees.
Completely changes the ratio.
But of course, that's one view of the world. Not everybody in the world works for a VC-funded AI company.
Yeah.
And arguably that's a good thing, not just for our sanity, but also for the planet, given how much freaking energy these things burn.
Yeah, people forget that.
But too often, as we move into this AI-infused age, it is the HP problem that the existing companies have. Being in role for too long and not doing the sort of horizon scanning that you can do very, very easily with AI, even basic generative AI, is going to be a problem. Something
we've been talking about this week, which is sort of connected to it, is everybody I seem to be talking to at the moment. At some point, the conversation comes: Have you generated your own action figure yet?
Yeah, these action dolls are everywhere. And now look, this is a bit unfair, really, but as Manchester City fans, we cannot help but focus on dear old Andre Onana.
That'll be Manchester United's goalkeeper then.
Yeah,
right.
And rather cruelly, the day after a performance he would want to forget, someone's produced an action doll with holes in his goalie gloves.
Hasn't he got some cases for his contact lenses?
He's got his contact lens cases, and in the crueler ones, they've also got guide dogs and clown outfits. So, sorry, Andre.
Come on, we're not here to solely pick at football coach professionals.
Why would
we are about tech, aren't we?
Well, yes. So the more serious point about these dolls, these are self-generated, right? So all this is a little bit of code. You stick in some images and make some decisions about how you want to dress.
Yeah.
Hey, presto, you've got something funny to send to your friends.
Yeah, and we know some of our friends have been sending us versions of this, and they are distinctly non-technical
everybody
people.
in my team has done it already, and everybody will do it.
So the world just does need to, I mean, this is maybe a ludicrous example, but the world needs to catch up.
We need to catch up with this fast, right? So
a
little anecdote about a professional services company that we know, who recently issued a 100-plus page report. Think about that for a second. Handwritten, 100 pages of report, laid out beautifully, ready for print, just a sumptuous piece of work, which...
How many man-hours would have been involved in that, and what would be the size of the team to create something like that?
I mean, like over 1,000. But it was also accompanied by a 30-page user manual for the executive leadership team.
Yeah, right.
So here's what we're doing. Now, we know this was handcrafted and not AI, because when we looked at it using our human assessment skills, we spotted errors. There could only have been human errors. So to your point, how many hours? Thousands, and lots of reviews.
Planning, drafting, revising, arguing.
Oh, God.
You know, and a huge... potentially a hugely complex rollout plan.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it needs 30 pages of plan to tell you how to roll it out. But you'd assume, right, you do all this work and it would have some relevance to the business.
Yes,
because
that would be the whole point of it,
wouldn't it? So, but if I can pump out an action figure doll with a couple of keystrokes, surely if I spent months and months planning, drafting, revising, and building a rollout plan that had some press releases, old school, and one social post. I'd be doing more than that in this day and age, wouldn't I? No, that's the plan. So with all the help available from dozens of AI tools at this point, why would you limit the chance of pickup of such a massive endeavor with such a short-sighted and frankly old-fashioned promotion strategy? Was it because of shortness of staff?
Possibly, but it's probably because of shortness of the right sort of staff that have the right intellectual approaches to be able to use AI properly.
Yeah, so I can tell you it's definitely not because of a shortage of staff. There was over a dozen people in that marketing department, which was remain nameless. But back to Toby's point, if you'd have started from first principles and said, we need as few humans to touch this as possible and as much AI assistance as possible, that whole thing would have come out and it would have popped out a perfectly good marketing strategy, possibly giving you good assets. It was a failure to adopt that sort of strategy that caused a problem. So that means that content, even serious content that you think is really going to promote your business, and you haven't thought about how it's going to be accessed, it makes that small is mighty point again. Fewer people arguably would have done a better job on this.
Well, fewer people means fewer interactions. It also means fewer rules about how they interact. And de facto, it reduces the complexity, which in itself introduces errors into the process.
Yep, there is that. So, but that's why humans are good at that. So that's why our human eyes spotted the error, right? So this is not an isolated case. In companies across Europe, we see, and also in the US, we see a lot of layoffs. Yeah. There is a mass reskilling of smaller teams with newer skills. And the good news is, if we can get to grips with the power of smaller teams to be creative, we could win.
So what should we sort of really think about? What does this actually tell us? You know, Toby's law?
Toby's law.
Is it going to be Toby's law now?
I don't know about that. That's a good one. So let's give. These are all 5 tips for this changing world where everything's AI assisted.
Yeah.
Number 1, as per Toby's law, ask first what AI can do for you.
Second thing is actively vet your teams for their AI savviness.
And we're not saying dispose of those that are AI savvy. We're saying train the hell out of them, let them loose.
But watch how they understand how to interact with AI, because that's the key.
Yeah, building action figure dolls, maybe there's not the end of the game.
That might be a slight distraction.
Yeah, and when you see complex processes, valuable bits of content that are taking a long time to put together, long project timelines, or you're getting weak results, go back to point 1, Toby's law. Let the AI show you what it can do first.
Yeah, And I think if you're going to consider doing this, you really should outsource anything that's non-core to your IP.
Yeah. Point 4, outsource anything non-core to your IP, which AI alone can do, to humans, but those humans that can demonstrate results, not those humans that happen to have been in your team for the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, the last point is this idea we just brought up, which is the idea of AI savvy. What does AI savvy actually mean? I think AI savvy means that you should be looking not just for people who know how to use the tool, but have the empathy, the raw creativity and the judgment to make the best of those tools.
Precisely, because at the end of the day, the people you're trying to convince to buy your products are not AI agents, they are humans. You need to empathize with them. You need to show some wisdom and judgment as to what will make them change their mind, no matter what information you're getting from the tools.
Yeah.
And you should prioritize your time for those interactions where humans interact with humans better than AIs will interact with humans.
Because AI is still a tool.
Absolutely.
And the best tools are still in the hands of humans.
And I think ultimately that's why Toby let his memorandum, manifesto out into the public. Because the world of work is changing and small is mighty is not going away, per Jason's point. The rate of this change will accelerate as breakthroughs in our AI bring productivity gains we can't even conceive of right now.
Yeah.
And ultimately, this means you will, per Toby's point, and that's, I think, what he's getting to, you will have an AI-infused workforce who can ride this wave confidently. And if they do so, not only will their company win out, but we will finally crack the productivity puzzle that's been foxing us for years.
Thank you for listening. If you want to learn more about category design, head to becategorical.com. If you need help designing and dominating your category, then get in touch. Contact details are in the show notes.